folks, coming up on Roland Unfiltered for Tuesday, July 16, 2019. Jam-packed show, a battle right now on the floor of the U.S. House as Speaker Nancy Pelosi battles with Republicans over calling Donald Trump a racist. They actually tried to get her words stricken from the record. We're going to go live to the floor to show you exactly what's going on. Also, folks, an arrest has been made in the death of Baton Rouge activist, the murder of Sadie Joseph Roberts. We'll tell you exactly what's going on. R. Kelly, as we speak, is sitting in a Chicago jail, being held without bail, and he may be there until his trial begins. Bill Barr, Justice Department, guess what? Attorney General overruled the Civil Rights Division. No federal civil rights charges against the cop who killed Eric Garner 5 years ago. Also, the continuation of Donald Trump and all his races, and then Republicans, of course, finally deciding to wake up. But now you got folks who are defending Trump and saying that's not what he was talking about, like Steve Scalise. Oh, yeah, that's a character witness, the guy who talked to white nationalists and white supremacists before. Yeah, okay. And Donald Watkins, remember the attorney down in Alabama, black attorney? Him and his son sentenced to federal prison for fraud, for taking millions from folks, including athlete Charles Barkley. A new documentary sheds light on the 2009 Atlanta public school cheating scandal. We'll talk with the director and one of the teachers involved in that. Meek Mill heads to court to appeal his 2008 conviction and landing him on probation for a decade. He also wants a new judge. And also Larry Krasner, DA in Philadelphia, he wants Philadelphia to outlaw the death penalty to make it unconstitutional. Folks, we got a jam-packed show. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Hey, folks, live look right now from the United States Congress, the floor of the House, where Democrats are pushing forward a resolution condemning Donald Trump's racist remarks. Let's take a listen.
And it belies a fundamental misunderstanding of our nation's promise that we are all created equal and that everyone has a role to play in building a more perfect union, not just white Americans, every American. We hereby recognize these words for what they are: offensive, hateful, and the people we represent deserve better. As a co-sponsor, I believe we must call out hate wherever we see it, whether in our own houses or in the White House. I urge all members to support the resolution. Words matter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Reserve.
Gentleman from Georgia, reserve. Gentlelady from Texas.
I'm pleased to yield 1.5 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Georgia, Representative Lewis.
Gentleman's recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise with a sense of righteous indignation to support this resolution. I know racism when I see it. I know racism when I feel it. And at the highest level of government, there's no room for racism. It sows the seeds of violence and destroys the hopes and dreams of people. The world is watching. They are shocked and dismayed because it seems we have lost our way as a nation, as a proud and great people. We are one Congress, and we are here to serve one House, the American House, the American people. Some of us have been victims of the stain, the pain, and the hurt of racism. In the 50s and during the 60s, segregationists told us to go back when we protested for our rights. They told ministers, priests, rabbis, and nuns to go back. They told the innocent little children seeking just and equal education to go back. As a nation and as a people, we need to go forward and not backward. With this vote, we stand with our sisters. Three were born in America, and one came here looking for a better life. With this vote, we meet our moral obligation to condemn hate, racism, and bigotry in every form.
Understand this time.
Thank you.
Gentlemen need more time?
All right, folks, let's go back to the House. I think they're giving John Lewis more time.
Do what is right, what is fair, and what is just.
Gentleman from Georgia.
So, reserve.
Lady from Texas.
I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Ohio, Representative Ryan.
Gentleman's recognized for 1 minute.
All right, folks, keep that audio up. I want to hear what Representative Tim Ryan has to say. And so here's what started this whole deal, folks, and that is, of course, Donald Trump's racist comments with regards to the 4 women of color who are in Congress, telling them they need to go back to the countries where they came from when 3 or 4 were born in the United States. And so today, they put forth a resolution. It was Speaker Nancy Pelosi who went to the floor. Leave his audio up, please. It was Speaker Nancy Pelosi who went to the floor, and what she then did was she actually talked about his tweets. I'm going to play it right now. This is what Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to say today that caused Republicans to lose their mind on the U.S. floor. Here we go. Go to my iPad, Henry.
Democratic and Republican, should join us in condemning the president's racist tweets. To do anything less would be a shocking rejection of our values and a shameful abdication of our oath of office to protect the American people. I urge a unanimous vote and yield back the balance of my
I was just going to give the General Speaker of the House if she would like to rephrase that comment.
I have cleared my remarks with the parliamentarian before I read them.
You take it. Can I ask the words to be taken down? I make a point of order. The gentlewoman's words are unparliamentary and ready to be taken down.
The chair will remind all members, please do not make comments toward personality-based comments.
Okay, then all hell broke loose on the floor. Republicans, they came up, they started losing their mind, acting a fool. Then Representative Steny Hoyer came up and said that her comments were out of line because you can't make personal comments from the floor against the President of the United States, calling him a racist, even though he's a racist. So what then happened was they then said that Speaker Pelosi could not speak for the rest of the day. So then Republicans wanted to take a vote to strike her comments from the record. It got so heated that Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, you saw him there from Kansas City, of course, member of the CBC, he got so sick and tired of all the nonsense that he said, what the hell, I'm out of here, and walked off the podium. Here we go to my iPad.
Ready to make a statement. I came in here to try to do this in a fair way. I kept warning both sides, let's not do this, hoping we could get through. Ms. Japal had a situation where we could be in here on another motion to take down words of a friend of mine. But we don't ever want to pass up, it seems, an opportunity to escalate. And that's what this is. I'll dare anybody to look at any of the footage and see if there was any unfairness. But unfairness is not enough because we want to just fight. I abandon the chair.
Wow. It was Congressman G.K. Butterfield of North Carolina, another CBC member, who then stepped to the podium. So what then happened, they took a vote to strike Speaker Pelosi's comments from the record. That failed. Then they took a vote to restore her speaking privileges. That passed. Now they go back to the debate over the issue of whether or not to issue a formal resolution condemning the comments of Donald Trump. Suffice to say, lots of drama. And also, just to understand, again, just how absolutely crazy this whole deal is. We also, earlier today, outside of the White House, Kellyanne Conway, of course, one of, what's his name, spokesman, she actually said, some of them said, you talk about just nuts. They had this news conference, and she literally asked a reporter what was his ethnicity. And he was like, what the hell does that have to do with the president's comments? She essentially has issued, not an initial apology, but sort of backtracking from that as well. Just, again, utter craziness going on. Donald Trump, he loves all this drama. Of course, he's probably sitting in the White House, happy to hear his name being talked about. You have Republicans who are coming out saying, well, no, his comments really weren't racist. It's not what he was talking about. We really shouldn't focus on that. But we know what the hell that was. Go back to where you came from. Let's talk about it, of course, with our panel, Dr. Jason Nichols, University of Maryland, Department of African American Studies. We also have Kelly Bethea, Communication Strategist, and Malik Abdul, Vice President, Black Conservative Federation. Malik, Republicans, first of all, some came out yesterday condemning Donald Trump's comments, some saying absolutely racist what he had to say. Now, well, not sure. All this all these different things going on. What do you make of all of this drama that Donald Trump has unleashed?
Well, it's I agree with Senator Scott. The comments were definitely racially offensive. And some people will even call that xenophobic. The thing is that we have to deal with, and we have this in politics a lot, where people try to explain what someone meant, clarify a person's remarks. This is another example of such. We can assume what Donald Trump meant by what he said, but we have to deal with what he actually said.
And what did he say?
And what he said is that and even though he didn't name names, it was clear he was talking about 4 women, 3 of whom were actually born in America. So,
right, and said, go back to your country.
Right, and so the question that I've even been asked, because, I've been attacked on social media because the conservatives, it's like, oh, well, you're attacking Donald Trump. Well, no, I'm not attacking Donald Trump. I'm dealing with the reality of where we are. And this is one of those instances where, unfortunately, and I get Donald Trump, this is who he is. He's 72, 73 years old, so it's probably not going to change much.
Not probably, but he won't.
Well, and he won't, and most people his age won't. But what I do know, and my message to not just the president, but just to conservatives in general, is that if your interest is in encouraging more black people to affiliate themselves with the Republican Party, then we have to be able to say, and we need our white conservative friends, our Republican friends also to say, okay, well, he went a little too far here. No one's going to just go, you're probably not going to find very many people who are just going to go in on him.
Actually, you had some folks who've gone in on him, even one Republican governor who said they were absolutely vile and racist.
Yeah, well, when I say go in, because, Lindsey Graham made comments that Senator Graham made his comments, and of course I agree with him,
Oh, Senator Graham's comments were sickening. Yeah. Calling them communists and that nonsense.
Well, I'm not
calling
talking
them anti-Semitic. No, he was,
yeah.
Senator Lindsey Graham was shameful and despicable for what he had to say. He was gutless. Well, that's what he was. Calling them communists?
Yeah, well,
that was pathetic.
Unfortunately, we live in a climate now where even the president is being called treasonous. So the fact that
the president actually tweeted today about launching a treason investigation because of a news brief he saw on Fox.
I understand that, but my point here is that unfortunately that's the climate where we're in, where people use those type of loaded terms, phrases to really refer to each other, and you saw what played out on the House floor. That's just an extension of, where we are. But again, Donald Trump did not make this easy for us.
Kelly, at the end of the day, Democrats, you see what they're doing. First of all, they have to stand up to bigotry, stand up to racism. Donald Trump wants to play this same political playbook from 2020, from 2016. He wants to be able to say that, oh, they're hurting me, and he tweeted, I don't have a racist bone in my body, and all that sort of nonsense. And see, this is the thing that, again, to me, this is the difference. If you say racist, people say racist, you're not a racist. No. We look at your words. You said go back to your country.
No, absolutely.
Okay? Black folks, Latinos, Asian, we all know what that means because it's been used against us for 400 years. We know what that means. He can dance around this. Oh, and then some Republican, he didn't mention race. He didn't mention anybody's name. It's like, no, pimp, that's not flying. And they should call him out for it and challenge him on it, because what it's also doing is solidifying what black people knew. That's the hashtag. We tried to tell you. We knew his ass was a racist when he ran. Y'all white folks, glad y'all finally catching up.
I would challenge that statement and say not only did black people know that he was racist, but his voting base knew that he was racist. The Republican Party knew that he was racist.
He even said yesterday he didn't care if white nationalists would ride with him on this because a lot of people agree with me. Yeah, white nationalist.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, Richard Bannon is a white nationalist, and wasn't he on
Steve Bannon?
Steve Bannon. I'm sorry, not Richard Bannon. But everybody knew that Trump was racist when he was on the campaign trail, before he was on the campaign trail. For those who are, now aware, because they were too young to know, but the Exonerated Five, and we saw When They See Us and what Trump was doing in New York at that time. Like, he has an entire history of xenophobia and racism. And for people to be of the sentiment that, oh my goodness, I can't believe he said this, it's very disingenuous to me. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that the Democratic Party said anything at all on the floor, because it's been 3 years of him just spewing hate, and now all of a sudden it's like 2020, we want the presidency, so we're actually going to act like we're going to do something about it.
Jason, the bottom line here is Democrats want to expose him for who he is. He believes, and his people, this actually helps him with his base. Look, we know who the hell his base is, but at the end of the day, Republicans are now forced to defend his words. And they're simply showing their true colors by having to defend the racist words. We know what he said when he said, go back to the country where you came from, and when 3 of the 4 are Americans. And then also, by the way, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has been an American in America longer than his own wife.
Right. And that was the point I was going to make, is that I don't think that Donald Trump, we oftentimes say that Donald Trump is anti-immigrant. He's not anti-immigrant. He's anti-black and brown immigrant.
Right. He ain't got a problem with white immigrants.
Yeah, he's cool with white immigrants. He married 2 white immigrants. His
3.
mother.
Oh wait, no, she was.
2. Marlon
yeah.
Maples is American. But either way,
they all look.
Yeah, they're all the same. He married 2 immigrants. His mother was an immigrant from Scotland. His grandparents on his father's side were both immigrants. He doesn't have trouble with immigrants. He has trouble with black and brown
Precisely.
immigrants. And I also think that it's not really an issue with Donald Trump, us finally knowing who Donald Trump is, or anybody figuring it out. I mean, if his words at Charlottesville didn't move you, or his words about Judge Curiel didn't move you, or his words about Mexicans in 2015 didn't move you, then all of a sudden this is the breaking point. I don't really get that. I think that,
and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And his whole deal is going to be, I'm going to keep saying this. I don't care. There is no bottom, and that's the thing. All these white journalists, like Howard Kurtz earlier, Malik was like, well, journalists need to be very careful saying that it was racist because Trump issued denial. Like, his ass don't lie. I'm like
10,000 confirmed lies.
He known to lie. You acting like, oh, well, he issued denial, so I should take into account his denial.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Donald Trump is a racist, and I don't think that the people who voted for him think that he was a racist. I voted.
You know his ass a racist.
I voted for him.
Malik, you know damn well he a racist.
I voted for him, and I don't think that Donald Trump.
Do you intend to vote for him again?
In 2020, absolutely, without a doubt.
So you voting for a racist?
Well,
was his comment racist? Hold up, was this comment racist?
It was definitely racially offensive.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that?
What's the difference?
It's the same thing.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, can you tell me the difference between racially offensive and racist?
Well, he said things that were racially offensive.
But what's the difference?
Or insensitive, or whatever you want to say.
Okay, but I'm just asking, what's the distinction between racist and racially offensive?
Well, I think that when we
One
start,
feels
I think it's possible for someone to say racially offensive, homophobic things and not be actually homophobic or racist.
Okay, but if you said racist things a number of times,
several times,
like
when do you become
a number of times?
Well, if we're talking about the system of racism, I mean, we really should, we could have a broader discussion of what that system.
No, we're actually no. We ain't discussing the system of racism.
I'm sure all of us know, and that's why the same comments, the things that I said on this show before, the things that Louis Farrakhan has said that were anti-Semitic,
We're gonna go with Louis Farrakhan.
Is Louis Farrakhan president of the United States?
It doesn't matter.
No, it does matter.
But it doesn't matter.
It does matter
about things that we have accepted.
Is Louis Farrakhan over the U.S. military? Does Louis Farrakhan have the nuclear codes? Does Louis Farrakhan? No, come on.
Louis Farrakhan gets to sit on stage alongside.
Hell no. Hell no. We are not about to flip.
Well, of course.
No, we ain't gonna flip this to Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
We are talking about the person.
But he said homophobic.
This man is the standard bearer of your party.
Okay.
This man leads your party. This man controls your party. So here's my point.
I've never voted for Louis Farrakhan on anything because he's not a
But I know many of us who've actually
nice try. First of all,
voting for and supporting.
We ain't even going down the Farrakhan rabbit hole because it don't work.
It's not a rabbit hole.
No, it is a rabbit hole because you want us to chase.
No,
this is the question, Malik. This is the question, Malik.
You asked me.
He said racially charged.
And I said,
what the hell was it? What is that? Racially charged? Is that what it was?
How many racist statements before you become racist? That's my question.
For me, it's hard to conceive someone being racist pursuing the policies that he's pursuing
like what?
that are beneficial to black and brown.
Like what?
Personally. So we're talking about the criminal justice reform package. We're talking
Let me ask you a question. No, wait, hold on. Let me ask you a question. Who instituted affirmative action? Who was that under?
Oh, I don't remember.
Richard Nixon.
Okay.
Who ran on the Southern Strategy?
Was that Nixon?
Nixon.
Yeah.
Who also launched the war on drugs where one of his own advisors, his notes revealed that it was specifically targeted at black people?
That was Nixon.
Richard Nixon. Who used the N-word himself? Who degraded black people in recordings in Oval Office? Richard Nixon. So the shit don't mean nothing about affirmative action if his other actions were also race-based. So to say that, first of all, the First Step Act, let me be clear. The First Step Act ain't an act for black people. It's an act for anybody.
Well, it's part of a criminal justice reform package. So if we're judging him by the same standard that Obama and any other president.
So his immigration policy helps black and brown people?
Well, you mean black people who are here?
Black and brown people? You're saying that his immigration policy, TPS, sending Haitians back to a place that was violent and where they had
Hold on. Not just Haitians.
I don't
also trying to cut the rug underneath from Liberians who were in this country. Calling those countries shithole countries. Making it clear that he wanted more visas for white immigrants.
But I don't think the immigration
So I understand you disagree with that. No one's calling you a racist.
I don't think the immigration policy is racist.
When does someone become racist? If they made several racially offensive statements. When honestly... It's like if you cheat on your girlfriend once, when do you become a cheater? If you've cheated 17 times. When can we call a spade a spade? That's my question.
You can, but I think we use...
Okay, so he's a racist. Do we agree?
But no, we don't agree. And I don't agree with the comments that John Lewis said, because John Lewis also said similar comments about John McCain. And of course...
Say what?
Well,
hold on, say what?
You don't remember the comments that John Lewis...
What did he say?
He said that voting for John McCain would take us back to the days of George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door.
And he what line?
So now...
If you are advancing policies, if you are advancing voter suppression policies, you're taking us back to George Wallace's day.
Was that what John...
Yeah, okay.
Is that what John McCain was doing?
Nice try, Malik.
Because he said the same thing about Mitt Romney.
Nice try, but this is real simple. You voted for a racist?
Yeah, and
you're going to vote for a racist again?
I'm going to vote for him in 2020.
Right, and the reality is, what that says is, you don't give a damn what he has to say about black people.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, that's what it's revealing.
I'm going to die black, so the fact that you...
Yeah, but you also ain't got a problem with your missing Confederate flag.
But you're not going to challenge my blackness on this show.
No, I'm not. Hold on. I'm not
challenging... You can't tell me what I'm concerned about as a black man.
I'm not... Hold up.
of
You
blackness.
can't
Let me correct you,
tell
Malik.
me what I'm concerned
Malik, let me
about
correct
as
you.
a black man,
Let me
or I can't
correct
be
you,
concerned
Malik.
about black people
Let me correct
because
you.
I'm voting
I
for
didn't
Donald
challenge
Trump.
your blackness.
So
what I said is
no,
you're
that's
voting
not
for a
gonna
racist.
fly.
That's
Okay,
what you're
well,
doing.
that's your opinion.
And that's what you know. That's a fact.
Well, that's your
That's what
opinion.
you're doing.
That's your opinion, and I just disagree.
So, fact of the matter is,
so yes, I'm
you're
gonna
voting
vote
for a
him
racist.
in
You voted for a
2020, despite
racist.
whatever
You're
or
gonna
anybody
still
else
vote
say
for a
about
racist,
it.
and that's undeniable.
Okay.
All right, y'all, let's go to Baton Rouge. An arrest has been made in the death of Sadie Roberts Joseph. 38-year-old Ronnie Bell was a tenant in one of Robert Joseph's rental properties and was behind on his rent. Bell is a registered sex offender in Louisiana. According to online records, he's being held at the East Baton Rouge Parish Jail on charges of being a fugitive from justice for failure to meet the requirements of his sex offender registration. Bell will be charged with first-degree murder in the death of Robert Joseph. You recall she was found in the trunk of a car last Friday. A Louisiana coroner ruled her cause of death a homicide due to traumatic asphyxia, including suffocation. So we certainly keep you abreast of what's going on in that case. Speaking of somebody who's in jail, R. Kelly ordered to be held without bail today after federal prosecutors described him, quote, as an extreme danger to the community, especially to minor girls. That took place at a hearing in U.S. District Court in Chicago. Federal prosecutors handed down 2 indictments that threatened to put Kelly behind bars for the rest of his life. In Brooklyn and Chicago, Kelly faces a combined 18 counts for alleged crimes against 10 victims. He faces a maximum prison sentence of 195 years in Chicago alone, and some charges carry a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years. The singer faces decades more in New York. Kelly already faced state charges that could put him behind bars for up to 30 years. He has been locked up in Chicago's downtown Metropolitan Correctional Center since federal agents arrested him while he walked his dog around 7 p.m. on Thursday, and the judges ruled he will stay in jail until his trial begins. Folks, R. Kelly got some problems. Some major, major legal problems. Fix your mic, FL. Kelly, go ahead.
And my thing is, he should have had problems at least a decade and a half ago, because this isn't new information. We knew that he was a predator. We knew that he was a rapist. We knew that he was a pedophile and a hebephile.
Well, you can know, but you had to prove it. And the reality is, in the previous case of the jury, they made it clear that was him in the video. But they cannot ascertain as to what the age of the young girl who was in the videotape. That's how he was found not guilty.
Right. And, you know, from a personal standpoint, it just felt like they were splitting hairs on that. I understand the fairness of it all, but...
No, they weren't splitting hairs. They had, in order for them to convict
No, I know, I understand
they had to determine if she was actually underage.
Right.
The problem is, one family member said, that was my niece, this was her age. Other family members testified that wasn't her.
Right, and
so,
it was reasonable doubt, and that's...
There you go.
No, I totally get that part. I'm just saying from a non-legal mindset of just being, you know, court of public opinion, it just hurt as somebody who knew that he was just a bad guy.
Right, but that's the problem. The court of public opinion ain't the court of law.
Right. Of course.
And the reality is that's the issue. With the difference here, because of the documentary, which you now have, Jason, more and more people who are coming forward. They also have additional videotapes. And so it's not the same case. Plus, that was a different charge. It was a different charge. See, everybody keeps talking about double jeopardy. No,
it wasn't.
It was a different indictment in his previous trial. So they literally can use the same video and charge him with a different indictment. It doesn't cause double jeopardy. Right. And what you also have, because of the transporting of underage girls, now you have human trafficking. That's what the feds are looking at. Go ahead.
Federal crime. Yeah, so he's in a whole heap of trouble. Couldn't happen to a more deserving person, seemingly. He's entitled to a fair trial, but again, he is somebody who, you know, anecdotally, I know people from Chicago, and it was well known in Chicago that he was targeting young girls showing up at the high school after school when the bell rung. So, you know, I hope he gets a fair trial and, you know, he gets due process. But at the same time, it does not look good for him. I think that R. Kelly is going to be singing on a prison yard very soon.
Next thing is what happened with Jeffrey Epstein is he's going to get bail.
Yeah, I don't know what the judge is going to do in that case, particularly with R. Kelly. I mean, these are things that we have heard in our community for years, and I'm talking about going back at least into the 90s. The stories of R. Kelly, whether it's his relationship with Aaliyah or any of the other rumors or allegations that were swirling around. So the fact that he's now, so many years later, what I think actually getting his just desserts, you know, I don't think he's going to have it easy. He shouldn't have it easy. Whatever problems he's had, you know, he's had time over the years to actually correct the behavior, but it doesn't seem like that's happened at all. I don't know when.
Because he's sick.
Well, you know,
you ain't corrected Jack when you got off, and look, you're gonna keep doing it. I don't know anybody goes, you know what? I think I'm gonna stop being a pedophile. Hell, Jeffrey Epstein got 13 months and was able to go walk freely, and he was still continuing doing what he was doing. That ain't changing.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I agree 100%, and I don't accept that he or Jeffrey Epstein is sick. You know, there are people who are actual pedophiles who, you know, go after prepubescent children.
Yep.
Those people are mentally sick. They have a mental illness.
Got it.
But someone who goes after teenage girls simply just wants power over them. That person isn't mentally sick. That person is someone who is a despicable human being.
Well, first of all,
go to prison.
they all sick, and they all can be criminals, and they all can go to jail. So
Right.
we'll see what happens
Absolutely.
there. Going to a break right now. We come back. We're going to talk about the cheating scandal in Atlanta, the focus of a new documentary. That's next. Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. If you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Danny Pantalo, the cop who killed Eric Garner 5 years ago, is not going to face any federal civil rights charges. The Department of Justice made that decision today. The Civil Rights Division, they wanted him to be prosecuted, but the Eastern District of New York disagreed, and Attorney General William Barr agreed with the Eastern District. This concludes the 5-year investigation when it comes to the death of Eric Garner. Barr made the final decision in this case. Of course, again, sad state, the grand jury on Staten Island also declined to indict Pantalo in Garner's death, but the officer was the subject of a departmental trial earlier this year. We're still waiting to hear from the administrative judge as to whether or not she is going to recommend to Police Commissioner James O'Neill, who will decide if Pantalo keeps his job. Are we shocked?
No. It's, you know, it's kind of, we know that there generally is, when it comes to federal charges, especially against police, it's a rare thing.
But to have the Civil Rights Division say, yes, go forward.
Yeah, but...
And then have the Eastern District say, no. That's also, again, quite interesting there.
Yeah, and I think, as I've been going back reading, there seems to have been, even when Obama was in office, there was some disagreement on whether or not, you know, some people believed that they should press forward and some people didn't. The overall theme was what I read is that there was most people actually did not believe that they would be able to win the case, you know, not just bring the charges.
See, you know what? I'm sorry, Kelly. That pisses me off, okay? There's no guarantee you're going to win a trial.
Right.
Damn it. Sometimes take your ass to court and at least try.
Oh, and that's your job.
Man, I mean, it's not like, hey, we can't get a guaranteed win, so we're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's incredibly lazy. I don't understand, you know, from a legal perspective, how that's not, you know, misconduct on some level when you know that you have something to present to a judge.
Right.
That is enough for a trial. And frankly, you don't know what a jury's going to say or do. So you're already hedging your bets against yourself before the trial even starts.
But the jury in this case,
I disagree. This is one area I don't think I rarely disagree with Roland. But I disagree because that goes both ways.
What?
You know, in terms of, you know, going out there and stretching yourself, trying to get convictions against people when you really don't have a mountain of evidence. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's the case here.
But wait a minute. Hold up.
But if you...
That happens every day. There literally are folks,
and that's problematic. If you don't have the evidence to convict somebody,
no. Let's be real clear. Let's be real clear. First of all, the standard in a criminal trial is beyond a reasonable doubt. Right. Federal civil rights charges and civil are different.
Yes. Right.
It's not the same legal standard. Preponderance of evidence. Precisely.
It's lower.
All I'm saying is, I don't understand this idea, well, we can't guarantee a victory, so we're not going to try. That, to me, is dumb.
Okay, if you're using the word guarantee, then yes.
That's literally what... Okay.
That's literally, there's never a guaranteed victory.
No, no.
You're saying that it's more likely than not, if you're really saying that the evidence is not going to necessarily get you a victory.
But here's the deal, though. You don't know that. You don't know it until you present it before a jury.
And there's also a difference between not...
I would rather you try than not try.
And there's also a
number one, that would be a waste of resources if you think that you can't win.
No.
That's the thing. Like, if you were like, this is not a winnable case.
Okay, no. That's correct. Civil Rights Division said, proceed.
Right.
Eastern District said, don't proceed. Clearly, a difference of opinion among lawyers. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, I did the town hall for the CBC about 3 years ago. She said the same thing. She said, I'm sorry. Can y'all make the effort, Kelly, to try?
And that's the difference. So there's a difference between not having enough evidence to go to trial, because there was enough evidence for him to be indicted. You know, there was enough evidence for some step to go forward. So, and an indictment indicates that you had enough evidence to go to trial. So they're just choosing not to go to trial.
For example, I know a lot of people that have gone, and again, this is a little bit different. I understand, you know, state and federal and all those kinds of things, you know, those differences. But there are often times where the state realizes that they can't win in state trials. They go forward with it, you know, and they just try to get a plea. And it's punitive against people, and it's unfair.
Hold up. You goddamn right. Be punitive against this asshole who killed Eric Garner. But I'm saying
if you don't have the evidence to win.
No.
That's not.
Okay, do you know how many cases where they have tried and they thought they had mounds of it? The folks who tried R. Kelly said, yo, we got a videotape showing his ass.
Several videos.
Having sex, peeing on an underage girl. When the jury came back, Sam Adams, his attorney said, Robert, we did the absolute best that we could. That's what he said. Because Sam Adams thought, we are dead. Jury said, not guilty. Oh, hell. Hell, Kardashian was shocked when the jury said, not guilty for OJ. But guess what? You tried. What I'm saying is, not even going to trial, you don't even get a chance to even present any evidence. To me, this is no different than a DAI. We couldn't get indictment from the grand jury. That was nothing that we can do. I mean, the grand jury wouldn't do it.
And I admit ignorance in this area, so I don't know law like that. But you know, I don't know of how common it is when a jury isn't able to convict that then they're federal, like in someone charged for federal civil rights violations. I don't know if there is a standard where if they're not convicted by a jury, then they, you know,
so
by
a
the
civil
time it
case
gets,
and a criminal case
I just want you to try.
I definitely get that.
I just want you to try.
Statement.
Yeah, and
here's what I want. What I want is for Eric Garner to have his day in court.
No, I agree.
What I want is for evidence to be presented so the public can see it. I want testimony. I want a jury of his peers to render a decision. What I don't want is for somebody sitting in the room going, well, you know, I don't really see how we can get a guarantee.
I think it was a little more than that. I was reading that they actually did consider the evidence, and I think the chokehold, watching the video at that time. So there was other things that they considered other than.
Right. But it feels like even with all of that.
I'm with you in heart.
But even with that knowledge, it still sounds like you're trying the case within yourself and not presenting it to a court.
And Kelly, CBC members who I've talked to over the years have said they want to see DOJ get some damn heart and try. And it's like, because here's the real deal. 97% is the conviction rate for federal prosecutors. 97%. Do you know why? Because really what they do is they say, okay, we got all this sort of stuff, we're going to force you to plead guilty. Let me remind you, the cop who killed Walter Scott took a plea deal over the federal civil rights charges. Let me roll it back. It was a hung jury when it came to the state, but when it came to the federal civil rights trial, he went, they might send my ass to prison.
Right.
He took a plea deal. All I'm saying is, when you say, we're not going to move forward, that cop choked Eric Garner.
No, there's no question about it.
Hold. And they didn't indict in Staten Island, at least attempt to have a dadgum jury trial. But that's the case there, folks. Tomorrow we're going to talk to the mother of Eric Garner. Tomorrow's the 5th anniversary of Eric Garner's murder. Today, Meek Mill and his attorneys appeared in court asking an appeals court to overturn a 2008 drug and gun conviction that has kept the rapper on probation for a decade. You recall Meek Mill and his attorneys believe that the judge deciding his case, Janice Brinkley, his sister, had a long-standing vendetta against him. The hearing ended without a ruling from the Superior Court panel. Meek's lawyers and the district attorney's office both iterated they believe the rapper deserves a new trial. Van Jones, one of the folks there to support him, this is what he had to say outside the courtroom. Another Van Jones. Audio. Okay, guys. All right. So please, if y'all can fix that, let me know. I'm gonna read the next story. We'll come back to that. Let me know if that's fixed. Donald Watkins Jr., folks, sentenced to 27 months in prison by a U.S. district judge for his role in defrauding more than $15 million from investors in Masada and other ventures with his father, attorney Donald Watkins Sr. He was earlier sentenced to a 5-year term. Watkins Sr., legendary attorney out of Alabama, now living in Atlanta. His father also, longtime head of an HBCU, very prominent family. His brother Levi Watkins was a major surgeon at Johns Hopkins University, and so the Watkins family, very well known. Among those investors, Charles Barkley, who said he lost up to $8 million stolen from him, defrauded by Watkins. Both of them defended. They actually represented themselves in court. You knew right then they were going down in flames. Do we have the Van Jones comment, folks? Okay, no audio on the Van Jones comment. Oh, I don't know how that happened. All right, so let's do this here. Let's do this here, okay? I'm going to not talk about this next story, which is actually this. You might remember this story, which is crazy. This is crazy story here, and that is the 2009 Atlanta cheating scandal. Of course, there's a new documentary called One Child Left Behind examines the 2009 cheating scandal. Here is an excerpt of that documentary.
People often ask me, what did this verdict cost? It cost everything. The legal system tried to kill me. I mean, it literally tried to destroy every aspect of my life.
I was like, oh boy, we were in a fight. It was real.
In every way, I was murdered. A wrecking ball came into the city. It didn't care who it hurt or what the consequences were. They simply wanted somebody to pay.
But watch them with handcuffs being processed? My God, you're talking about educators. We worked 14, 16 hours a day for kids.
No, trying to convince me to say I cheated.
I will die before I stand up and say I did something I didn't do. I'll die first.
I had to make a decision to cheat or not to cheat. I made the wrong decision.
It was one of the biggest scandals ever to rock American schools.
There is a held belief. Pedro Noguera talks about it as the normalization of failure.
That means you don't think black students could learn.
This was never about children. This was about a power grab for educational funds in the state of Georgia.
The Republican governor says, let me take over these failing school districts. Well, the districts are failing because you're underfunding these schools by $1 billion a year.
The cheating scandal was not about education at all. It was about changing public perception of public schools.
You made them distrust educators. Then you have to have other people come in to save them from themselves.
We wanted to get at the truth. Now, were we interested in putting some of the higher-ups in jail? Yes. They needed to go to jail.
There were 256,779
answers that were changed from the wrong answer to the right answer.
At this Georgia courthouse, you'd think they were indicting mobsters with charges like racketeering and theft.
The bail bondsman said to me, "You would have been better off if you shot somebody."
All I want from any of these people is just to take some responsibility. But they refuse. They refuse.
Those same people who hurt children got on the stand and said, "I hurt children." And everybody believed them.
You need to watch out. This is the plan, to take the funding and to take the schools.
Unless people know the real history of what happened in Atlanta and why, we're going to see these same kind of situations continue in other cities.
The truth truly needs to be told.
Don't put your blame on me.
Well, joining us right now is producer Jody Gomes, and also in the documentary, Dr. Dana Evans. Jody, I want to start with you. I mean, we all remember this trial, and there was so much drama. You had the issue of education, you had race, you had power, and you had black folks who were saying, wait a minute, these are black educators hurting our children. What made this something that you said, you know what, we really got to hone in on and do this documentary?
Well, thank you, Roland, for having us on. When I heard the verdicts in this trial, I was working for the Jackson family, and I had just finished going through the Michael Jackson trial. And Conrad Murray got 3 years for what I felt was killing the most famous man in the world. And shortly thereafter, these educators were convicted of upwards of 30 years in prison. And it just didn't set right with me that, yes, there was a crime committed, but I wanted to question and do a deep dive on whether the punishment fit the crime. Whether there was cheating or not, I didn't know at that point when I first started getting into the deep dive.
And
once we got into...
Go ahead. Once you got in, what did you come away with?
Once we got it, we did indeed find that there were pockets of cheating. We did indeed put people on camera that attested to cheating and why they cheated. And I felt it was more important for us to get into the why. And the why truly was because a lot of these schools, when it came to the high stakes testing, they were underfunded to begin with. Kids were coming into middle school not being able to read at a first and second grade level. And of course, we're talking about public schools at this point. And so people were left with terrible choices. And of course, some people made the wrong decisions. And admittedly, in our film, there's some people that said, listen, I made the wrong decision. Had I known cheating, I knew it was immoral, but had I known cheating was illegal, I would not have done it. But in the meantime, a lot of those people who claimed they cheated and admitted to cheating and or took a plea deal for cheating still felt like they were not doing an injustice to the children because they were still teaching the kids, but just were deciding not to teach to test. They were teaching the kids and cheated on the test to put them forward to keep their schools from closing.
But Dr. Dana Evans, I want to bring you in, but the issue that a lot of people raise, in which one I understand, is I get folks saying they wanted to keep schools open. But what you were dealing with, though, with you were kids who were being moved forward who actually weren't learning, who actually were not being educated. And so they were going through a system that was passing them, and they were being put at a disadvantage because once they washed out of the system, that was it. They had no other shot at life.
So, can I talk now?
Yes,
that's
go ahead.
Misconception that's a misconception as it relates to particularly at Dobbs. This was a test that was given at one time at the end of the school year, and it didn't determine whether or not you were promoted to the next grade. I think that is something that the media has purported, which doesn't actually mean it's not true. Now, I'm not saying in any way that cheating is right or justifying it. I think it's wrong. And I believe that people who cheated didn't believe in children or didn't believe in their ability to move children at high levels. I don't have those beliefs. I believe in African-American children. I'm an African-American. My son is an African-American child. And so I believe in our ability to achieve. But what happens is you get a test on the end of the school year. The next year you come back and we assess all throughout the school year whether or not you were in getting tutoring or whether or not you were getting remedial assistance was not dictated by this one test score. And we were able to show that in court, that we produced 300 pieces of evidence. And particularly at my school, I was a brand new principal. It was my first year as a principal there. And I came and made a lot of changes. And those changes resulted in people being terminated, who hurt children, people who didn't teach, and a lot of other things. And I think it was retaliatory. But we got the Chamber of Commerce Award. I started a GED program at the school for parents in the community. We provided, I wrote $1 million grant for Dobbs. We had Saturday school, we had before school tutorial, we had after school tutorial, we had intervention in groups throughout the day. And so I vehemently just reject the notion that children were academically hurt on my watch. That did not happen.
But let me ask you this question. If folks, if folks, and I'm going to come back to Jody as well. If folks were cheating on tests, what would the penalty be for a student if they cheated on a test?
So there are actually children who cheat on tests every day.
I know that. That's what I'm saying. But we're saying, what's the penalty?
So they would probably retake the test, or they would get a 0 for that test. They would fail it. If it's the CRCT, that portion of the CRCT would be eliminated. Like say if they were on social studies, for example, they would not score for social studies, but then come in and take the test for the other areas. Isn't the
point that adults should know better?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you talk about harm, moral harm or ethical harm, I believe was done to children, because children look up to teachers, and you're teaching them how to respond more than just reading and math and social studies. You're teaching them how to be a productive member of society. And so when people break that, there is harm to children in that degree. I agree with that. But this idea that because someone gave someone the answers on the test, that this person will now, as Judge Baxter tried to say, no, I'll even quote Fonnie Willis, one of the district attorney's office, said, now these people are going to be strippers and prostitutes. Really? I think that's a large jump,
Jody,
that is not even substantiated by facts.
Right. Jody, I want to bring you back in. The thing that jumped out for me was, first of all, when folks were convicted, I had no issue with that. What I also argued that I did not believe that there should have been jail time, because I believe that when you have to assess a person's risk, you have to assess the cost to the state, and that made no sense to me. In your research, as you were going through this, what jumped out at you? What surprised you the most? What caused you to say, "Yo, what was a wow moment for you?"
Well, there were a couple wow moments. And first, I want to say I'm glad Dr. Evans is on here, because we did a lot of research to find people that testified against some of these educators. There was a system of retaliation. Like we looked high and low for Dana Evans in particular to find anybody that could say she cheated, knew about cheating, or instructed anybody to cheat. And we could not find anybody that could come up with that valid answer, that as we peel back the layers of the onions, we could poke holes in their stories as much as her story was put on trial. So I just want to say that we did our homework in ethically finding out before we put anybody's story in this film. We wanted to find out, did you or did you not cheat? And of course, a lot of these people are under appeal and testified in my film for the first time, and I'm honored for that. But one of the wow moments for me personally was, this wasn't just happening in Atlanta. It wasn't just happening in Georgia. There were other school districts in Texas, in Washington, D.C., in Chicago, in Georgia alone,
in fact,
that were non-black districts that had worse cheating statistics and did not rise to the level of criminality that was found in Atlanta. And I want to say that again. They had worse cheating statistics and did not rise to the level of criminality, where we were making educators, we were trying educators and convicting them under RICO charges for test cheating. And so that made me, again, look at the underneath. I had to go to the why. Why are we here? How did somebody not pump the brakes and say, okay, perhaps they did cheat. Perhaps this is one of the worst black on black crimes. We all know education is the great equalizer for our children. Yes, there has been a crime committed here, but isn't there a different way other than criminalizing educators to resolve not only the cheating that was going on, but the ongoing cheating that is still happening in all of these places. Roland, you're in school choice, and cheating still is taking place in a lot of places across America.
Right, and I think that, but look, I've got sisters and a brother who were teachers who talked about, like my sister, educator in Houston, talking about one of those cheating scandals, talking about kids actually being harmed. You're absolutely right. Dana, last question for you. What do you want people who watch this documentary, what do you want them to come away with?
I want them to come away with that. First of all, I didn't cheat. But I really want them to come away with the fact that there's a disproportionate way in which people are treated. Certain groups of people are treated in the legal system. And we have to, fight where we are with what we have, with as hard as we can for truth and justice. There's a suppression of truth, there's a suppression of resources, there's a suppression of knowledge, and it disproportionately affects African Americans in such a profound way. And I never thought in a million years that I could ever be indicted for crime. And I realize now when I see people on the television screen that everything that you see isn't what it appears. And it was a politically motivated, racially fueled, politically motivated trial that I did not have the power to win.
Absolutely.
Dana, are you still in education, or are you not allowed to be in education?
So the interesting part about that is I had a Professional Standards Commission hearing recently for my license, and the judge wrote a big, we went to the same thing, and she said that there was no real evidence to substantiate the claims that I cheated. And I thought it's interesting that the Professional Standards Commission could not revoke my license for teaching because there was not enough evidence to substantiate it. But the court of law could put me in jail for the same thing. So technically I have my license, but no, I don't work in education. I don't think the Atlanta Journal-Constitution would allow me to. If I tried it, it would be horrible. It would. So I'm working, but not in that field.
Jody, final comment.
I just want people to understand the perils of high stakes testings as it relates to marginalized schools and schools that are struggling. A test that happens in Beverly Hills, a child that has all the resources in Beverly Hills is not going to test the same as a child that has a lack of resources, has a lack of educators, has a lack of food on a daily basis. And we need to look at public education as a whole as to how we got to this spot in time, in education. I just think education is the great equalizer for our children. And I think this film takes a deeper dive at the look as to how we got to a place where we're criminalizing educators when we should be upholding them and supporting them to help our children advance through life.
Jody, when does it air?
We are actually on the festival circuit right now. We're winning jury awards and best documentary awards at top 25 festivals and at Academy Award qualifying festivals. We just won at ABFF for the jury prize. We have our Atlanta premiere on August 25th, and then we should be streaming nationwide this fall, just in time for back to school. All right. Dana Evans, Dr. Jody Gomes, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
All right then, folks. Let's talk about, of course, my folks at 420 Real Estate. Of course, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough the last time to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, they raised a ton of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. And last time, again, a lot of people missed it. They were sending emails saying, hey, I want to get in. Now they have a new investment opportunity that you can check out, folks. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the United States and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill that was passed makes it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S., creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow in all of the plants. This makes for an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is real simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right. They are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. All you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in the game and get in the game now. All right, folks, before we go, we have, of course, the House did indeed pass the resolution condemning the comments of Donald Trump. Democrats have controlled the House. They actually have the votes. And so for all of Trump's bluster and him slamming everybody else, Kelly's now been officially condemned by the United States House of Representatives.
And now I'm curious to see what the Democratic Party is about to do next. Condemnation is a start, but what does that actually do in terms of his presidency? Like, until he's impeached, until he resigns, until, you know, that entire administration is no longer in power, I don't see, you know, I don't see anything else beneficial happening. I think this is just pomp and circumstance, which is good because it's on the record. But beyond that, you know, I just want more. It's been too long.
Here's what's interesting here, Jason. Here we go to my iPad. This is a graphic of the votes, folks. 235 Democrats. 4 Republicans agree with the resolution. 1 independent. Total votes 240 to 187.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to break down in a partisan way. The Republicans, at least we can see that 4 Republicans had a spine and were willing to call out.
And those 4 Republicans, go to my iPad, please. Congressman Will Hurd, Texas, only African-American Republican in the U.S. House. Representative Upton, Michigan. Representative Fitzpatrick, Pennsylvania. Representative Brooks from Indiana. And I think Justin Amash is now an independent, so that may be that one independent vote. So really, 5 Republicans voted for it. I still think it says something that that all Republicans did not stand with Donald Trump, that they stood there and said that these were racist comments.
No, absolutely. And like I said, I think, you know, it should be applauded. I think it's a little late. You know, I think that the Republican Party should have checked him a long time ago. I think many of them are intimidated by Donald Trump and his loud base. I would agree, or I would argue that his base isn't necessarily super large. I just think it's super loud, and they are afraid. And they should know from what happened with the Tea Party that they shouldn't let loud people control them and be able to call out something when it's wrong.
Speaking of weak, Malik, Senator Marco Rubio, this is what he had to say about the whole deal. 4 months ago, after Representative Omar suggested Jews are not loyal Americans, not true. House Democratic leaders refused to vote on a resolution singularly condemning her words or anti-Semitism. Now they have no problem voting the resolution labeling the president a racist. Talk about weak. He couldn't even condemn what Trump had to say. And that's also what's interesting. The different Republicans, they want to bring up everything else in the world except actually what Trump said.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't surprising to me. It isn't surprising that House run by Democrats passed a resolution condemning the president and that almost all Republicans voted against it. You know, I don't know what the numbers were with the, well, I guess they never got to a number with the Omar resolution. I don't think they mentioned her at all. But if there was a vote on that, I can pretty much bet that Republicans would be in favor of it and Democrats wouldn't. So, you know, unfortunately, this is kind of where we are. I do think that, you know, what we saw on the floor today, it didn't, you know, I wasn't happy about the president's remarks, but what I saw on the floor today was something else I do not like about our political system at all.
What's that?
Well, the comments, apparently, I'm sure Nancy Pelosi knew that she wasn't supposed to.
No, I'm sorry. Nancy Pelosi ran her comments by the parliamentarian before she delivered them. The parliamentarian greenlit her comments.
Well, it seemed like Representative Cleaver, was that who's that?
Yeah, Congressman Cleaver was at.
It seemed as if he had a different opinion.
No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
Collins of Georgia objected, wanted her comments stricken from the record.
Yeah.
And because he literally acted a fool on the back and forth, that's what pissed Cleaver off and why he said, I'm out of here. That's what actually happened.
But when you get to the point of, I mean, when you're on the floor calling the president a racist, you can't expect the Republicans are going to join you in that effort. I mean,
5 did.
Well, yeah, but 5 out of how many?
Well, first of all, let me reiterate, okay, the only black Republican in the United States House from Texas,
Will Hurd,
former CIA officer, had the guts to call Donald Trump exactly what it was.
But it shouldn't surprise us that, you know, very few Republicans criticize.
No. I'm not speaking to very few Republicans. What I'm saying is Congressman Will Hurd did something, Texas A&M graduate, that frankly other black Republicans wouldn't do. He showed
Well, he's
guts.
the only representative.
No. Let me say it again. Congressman Will Hurd could have easily voted with the rest of his party.
Yes, he could.
What I'm saying is Congressman Will Hurd did what a lot of black Republicans don't have the guts to do.
But they're not politicians.
I'm sorry, but you brought Louis Farrakhan earlier. He wasn't a politician.
Yeah, but we're talking about a vote on the floor, though. They can't vote on the floor. So if we're saying that those people can actually, that he did something that other black Republicans aren't doing, he's the only one there that actually has a vote.
Precisely.
Voting at this.
And that was the precise point we were making earlier when you try to use Farrakhan as your example. Go ahead, Jason.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Is there anything that President Trump can do that would affect your vote, that you would not cast a vote in 2024 President Trump?
I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. I can't say that. It hasn't happened.
So there's essentially nothing he can do.
That's not what I said. I said I don't know. So the answer to your question is that I don't know. He could do something that terribly offends me, and then that would make me consider not.
So the many racist things he's done have not terribly offended you?
No, they haven't offended me where I wouldn't support him. No, they haven't.
There you have it.
I mean, were you expecting a different answer?
Let me say it again. Will Hurd, Texan, my home state, has a ring just like I do. Texas A&M graduate, black Republican, showed guts by first calling out Donald Trump's comments on yesterday, and today standing up and actually voting with the Democrats.
Well, I criticize him.
Why? No. Let me be real clear. Malik, you criticizing him is irrelevant when you also.
But I'm a black Republican.
No. Allow me to finish. You did not criticize him. You danced. You did not call it what it is. You tried to use it was racially charged. You
and
said
I said I don't agree with the comments. I said it makes it harder for us to actually bring people to the party.
No,
so
but what Congressman Will Hurd did is he called it what it is.
Right.
Okay.
He didn't dance. And that, folks, is the difference. And so let me get people to understand what is going on here. And I did this in my commentary yesterday. I need you to understand what Donald Trump desperately needs is to gin up his white base. What Donald Trump is trying to do is to get his white base, his white conservative base, to say, oh, look at them, they're mistreating our Donald, because he needs them to vote in significant numbers. Now, Malik can give him his vote. Don't ask me why, but it's pathetic. But the man, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. First of all, right. And guess what? You have a choice. You have a choice to vote, and I have a choice to call it pathetic. And here's why. And here's why, folks. And here's why. And here's why it's pathetic. Here's why it's pathetic, because this is a man who has no decency. This is a man who does not respect the office of the president. This is a man who cannot conduct himself with proper decorum. This is a man who mistreats people of color, who calls shithole countries, who is trashed on nations where there are people of color. He has shown his true colors. Donald Trump does not care. What he wants is, and I keep telling y'all, and this is about white fear, he wants to scare the bejesus out of white folks across America, mainly in red states, Midwestern states, by saying, I'm the only guy who can protect your way of life. When Republicans say, oh, people in middle America don't care about this stuff, they ain't talking about you. I lived in Chicago 6 years. They ain't talking about black people in Chicago or East St. Louis or Minneapolis. No, they're talking about white conservative voters. That's his base. Do you know how you beat Donald Trump? Is if black folks, Latinos, white folks of conscience mobilize and organize. This man has done nothing to deserve 4 more years. He has embarrassed this nation. Forbes released their piece today on the 50 most respected leaders in the world, Donald Trump ain't on the list. The world doesn't respect America because of the person who is sitting in the Oval Office. You can tweet, you can post on Facebook. It don't mean a damn thing if you're not registered. It don't mean a damn thing if you don't vote. If we truly want to make America great again, throw his ass out of office November 2020. Folks who want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. This is the only place you're going to get the real commentary, the real discussion, as opposed to some of these other mainstream outlets. They make excuses for Trump. We don't make excuses for him. I told y'all, if America had listened to black people, Trump would have never been president. Hashtag, we tried to tell you. I got to go. I'll see you tomorrow. Holla! You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey, yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, my name is Brescia Webb, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Ow. Well, I like a nice filter usually, but we can be unfiltered.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan, and if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, could it be any other way? Really? It's Roland Martin.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? The blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.